This is a series of English, advanced English understanding, and, spoken language presentation, in which we are looking at what it's like to study in a North American university, either the US or Canada. My experiences as a university student were, first of all, in the United States, and then at three different universities in France, so a European university system. And I found them very different. And I'm going to show you a document from Florida International Technology University that states their expectations for students, which are pretty much what was true when I was a student in the United States. In France, it was a very different system. In the United States, they valued highly our personal presence in the classroom and our participation in the classroom. And you know that many of the sessions that I do, I was a university teacher, professor for many years in the United States and a little bit in France. Most of the presentations that I do are participative, they're collaborative. They invite people to talk and to share and to answer and to ask. And that is the American style of teaching. In France, in the European system, we registered at the beginning of the academic year, and then nobody cared if we attended lectures or not. Obviously, if we wanted to be able to pass the examination, we needed to know what the professor had talked about, what his topics were, or her, mostly it was his. And the whole grade that we got for registering in the class depended on the final examination, which was a standardized examination. And about approximately 2 weeks after we took it, we had to go to the university and look on the bulletin board and see where our name was published. Had we passed the course or not? If our name wasn't published, we'd failed. And that was the whole year. It wasn't just a semester. In the US, you sign up for 4 or 5 different courses, different sequences of lectures on different subjects during a semester, which is half of a year, or a trimester, which is a third of a year, or a quarter, which is a fourth of the academic year, not counting holidays and vacations. These semesters, there are usually 2. One starts in September at what the French call la rentrée, and the other starts in January or February. And they are 15 weeks long, each of them. Some universities have what we call an intersession, a 4-week intensive 1-class session, which may involve travel abroad or a special project, and usually happens in January. And then there are 2 intensive short sessions during the summer months. If you're on a trimester system, There may also be an intersession in January, but there are 3 scheduled series of 2 or 3 classes at a time. So you end up with the same amount of credits for an academic year, but it's just distributed differently. On a quarter system, you usually take 1 class, maybe 2 classes at a time during about 10 weeks. And there are 4 of those sessions during the year. You end up with approximately the same number of classes, whatever calendar system your university follows. And in all cases, being a student, you attend classes for 15 or 16 hours a week. And that includes, in addition, you have to do 2 or 3 hours of outside study, of homework, devoir, each week in order to fulfill the requirements. So you'll have a project, you'll have a paper, you'll have quizzes, you'll have interim tests. You're very busy during the academic time, and they take attendance. They check your name at each class to record when you were present. And if you miss more than 2 or 3 class sessions during the term, that's it. You fail. They won't count your work during that semester. So being there is crucial to succeeding. And the other thing that they actually reserve points for is not only sitting in the seat, but being part of the class discussion. Nowadays they have online chat groups, they have just online discussion groups, and you have to log into those and be a part of something as part of your record for that class for the semester. And in addition to that, as you will see from this document, while you are present in the class, you are responsible for business-like and helpful behavior, like you need to be there on time and pay attention during the whole class session. And you need to dress appropriately. And you need to be polite, to be civil to the teacher and to the other class members. Not doing that can mean that you are banned from the class. You are eliminated from the class. You are not allowed to complete the class and get credit for it. So we're going to look at that document now. I'm going to share my screen. So like I say, this is from a technical university in Florida, a state university, but it's the same set of expectations that have held in United States university classrooms since forever. Okay, so this is out of the Student Handbook of Rules for Students. Would somebody like to read aloud this first part? Raise your hand. Use the raise hand in the, let's see. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Go ahead, read the page that's on the screen now.
Disclaimer. Okay. The exit of center equity of the seat of the customary rules of the. Sorry, teacher, because
Can you get closer to your computer or
okay, teacher,
microphone? Oh, that's way better. Okay.
can you hear me now, teacher? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There exists a center equity or seat of
Etiquette.
customary
Etiquette.
etiquette or seat
Yes.
or custom or set or customary rules of a customary what do you call, how can you pronounce it, teacher? Costly? Costly?
Courtesy.
Courtesy.
Which
Courtesy
means
that
politeness.
okay. Courtesy that apply a classroom situations, particularly on the college level. One can view these rules as forming a code of conduct opportunity to the same personal level.
Semi-professional.
Yeah,
Which means halfway.
semi-professional uh, level or of interact that should be how can I
Interaction.
say? Okay, sorry, teacher,
Interaction.
I cannot see properly. I have no
Oh,
glass.
yeah.
Interactions that should be
Commonplace.
commonplace
Ordinary.
commonplace in the university sitting between the teachers and students. Oh my God,
Okay.
thank you, sir, teacher.
Yes. Okay. So etiquette also means politeness. Etiquette and courtesy. They're big on politeness. And a code of conduct is also about being polite and being appropriate. So it's not the same way of communicating that you use with friends and not the same language that you use with friends. It's a more formal language like we've used in our sessions. That's a sort of an everyday formal language, English language. And there's two words for university in North American English. University, of course, but also college. And in some educational settings, college, in French anyway, collège, means the teenage grades in school. But in English, in North America, it means university. So can you continue, please, reading? Do you want to continue? Chris?
Okay, teacher. A classroom is a formal setting, but permanently does not meant formality does not mean right or
Rigid.
rigid or rigid
Yeah.
rigid or what you call, how can you pronounce this one, teacher?
Or stiff.
Yeah, stiff. Both instructions instructor and
Good.
student in a classroom have rights and responsibility. Both should respect the other and treat them with common human deserve.
Reverence.
Both, yeah,
Reverence, which means
reverence,
respect for other people.
okay. Reverence. Both should do all they can do to help the educational process achieve its maximum effectiveness and to help the classroom truly become an environment for learning by all present. Thank you, teacher.
Okay, thank you. So that sets up the expectation that it's a kind of a formal setting, that it's everybody's responsibility in the classroom to make it a good experience for everybody, and that we need to respect other people and use what we call common courtesy, which means it's the word for the way that you should treat everybody, that we all should treat everybody. Okay, so who'd like to continue reading? Rasa, you're next.
Yes, disclaimer. The contents, okay. From the first, in American universities, the burden of the educational effort is on the shoulders of the student. The instructor conveys some information and answers some questions, but it is the student's responsibility to become an active learner. University will provide a lot of helps, but won't force you to do them. More about active learner and helps later.
Okay, keep going.
Need to much more outside work, i.e. homework for a class. That traditional norm is that for every hour, i.e. Standard 15 minutes period spent the classroom, a student should plan the spending at least 2 hours outside the classroom learning the subject matter of the course. Draw additional reading or class assignment. It is a full-time job.
Right. Now, a common misperception, the reason that they're saying this and putting it in writing is that for students, especially for beginning students, a common misperception, mistake, is that, okay, you're in class only 15 or 16 hours during the week. A full workload is 40 hours a week. If you multiply 15 by even 2 and say for each class hour you need to do 2 hours of outside, you need to read, you need to discuss, you need to get a group of study buddies, is what we call them, of friends that you study with, that you practice with, that you discuss with. And those, of course, will become good friends. So I'll put that word in the chat, study buddies. Everybody knows what that means, even though it's slang. So, it's the appearance is it's not a full-time job to be a student, but in fact, to do it right and to succeed, yeah, it is 40 hours a week that is expected. And of course, you also need time to relax, to have some fun, to chat with friends. In most colleges and universities in North America, most of the first and second year students live, we say, on campus. The university provides dormitories, which is a word for big buildings for people to sleep in. And that's part of the university experience for most Americans. There are what we call commuter colleges. And when we look at the different kinds of colleges and universities, we'll talk about that. But many, many students live in a dorm or a dormitory for their first 2 years. And so they're always on campus together. And that's really good experience because that way they make really close lifelong friends. So let's look at attendance. Abu, you put your hand up. You want to read this page, please?
Yes, attendance. Attendance is required. Actual physical presence with any resulting verbal interaction between instructor and student can be as necessary to understand the course's subject matter as completing homework assignments. No consumerism, attitude, no optional attendance. There are many legitimate reasons for missing a class: illness, family crisis, transportation problems. However, skipping class to study for a midterm in another class or to complete an assignment is a sign of poor time management and poor planning. It would not be considered legitimate excuses by most instructors.
Okay, I need to figure out how to go back to full screen view. I pressed the wrong button. Okay, I'm going to stop the share and get us back and then share again. Okay. So some students, kind of, they're in class, but they're just there and they don't expect to work, but they get really mad if the professor acknowledges their lack of work by giving them a low grade. It's up to the professor or the teacher to grade in the United States, to grade the students enrolled in the class. And the professor is expected to give students a list of, what they expect, what the assignments will be, and how much each assignment, each component of being in the class will count for the final grade. And in most universities, for every class, there are 5 different grades you can get. It's much simpler in Europe. And I don't know what it's like in your countries. If you get an A, that's the one you want. If you really want to have an outstanding record as a student, that means you did very well all the way through the class. B, which is the second grade, is not quite as good as A, but it's still pretty good. It means you did well in the class. You weren't like, wow, to the professor, but you did very well. You succeeded well. C means, well, you did the work, probably, mostly. And some of it was maybe okay, and some of it wasn't so good. But on average, whatever your language's equivalent of is, that's how you did. D, the next letter, means, well, you'll get credit for the class, but no extra points. You didn't do very good work, but you completed. You were there. You participated occasionally. You passed at least the most important tests, if only by the English expression, the American expression is by the skin of your teeth. In other words, just barely. That's a D. And F means you got to do it again. you're not getting credit for this one. So it's for the student, the time management, the material management, the task management, the quality management is constant. In Europe, as I remember, you could pretty much goof off, except for being there at lectures for a few months, and then study like crazy for 2 or 3 months at the end, and you had a decent chance to pass. That's not true in the US. It's an ongoing negotiation with the teacher. And it's up to the student to be able to manage time and manage work quality successfully. And another really important aspect of being present is don't arrive late. And the best way to do that is to prepare, if at all possible, to be there 10 minutes early. You just make that your plan. You're going to be there 10 minutes early, which means if you get into a traffic jam or the bus is late, you're still going to be there on time. And that's what's expected. Now, if you get really sick and you're hospitalized or you really can't even get up, you need to get a note from a health professional so that when you give it to the instructor, they know that you weren't just goofing off. You were really sick. And still, the attendance requirements apply. So if you're sick for a week, you need to negotiate with the professor. If you're sick for 3 weeks, unless you've been in touch with the professor all along and you can attend for that time online and you are capable of doing the assignments while you're being sick, you're probably going to have to redo the class. And professors have strategies to be sure to make a record of how reliable you are. And you don't distract others in class. You don't talk on the phone, you don't let your phone ring, you don't make a business about anything that would disturb or distract other people. If you are impaired because you had a big night last night and you're hungover, unless you can attend very quietly and actually be present so that people don't know something's wrong, don't go to class, but it'll count against you. So here are the behavioral expectations. Speak up when there's a class discussion going on. Make sure that you are a participant, at least, say, once a week. You don't have to talk all the time. And if you do talk all the time, everybody will think you're a nuisance and nobody will like you, including the professor. But if you participate appropriately, even if you feel self-conscious about your English, you still need to participate in the class discussion in an appropriate way. In other words, don't monopolize, don't take over and always be talking. Nobody will like that. Study in a small group with friends. Communicate at least 2 or 3 times during the term with your instructor. Send him or her an email, stop by the office and ask a question. Let them know that you are interested and serious. And if you have to be absent and it's something you can know ahead of time, let the instructor know and ask them how to stay up with what's going on in the class. This institution says you have a university email for instructors to communicate with you and for you to communicate with instructors. And it says, use it. And whatever your big dreams are, stay focused on what's due right now. Don't take too many classes. There are people that want to, get everything over with really quick. And they sign up, they tell you that 4 classes or 5 classes are what they expect for a full-time student. And if you decide you want to take 7 classes, well, the odds are you're not going to have 2 or 3 hours of work time to actually do the work for the classes. Sometimes you can get away with taking 1 extra class. If the extra class is something you already know a lot about, or it's something that's not academic, like a physical education class where you learn a sport, or, it's kind of recreational and self-care. And it's good to start out with a just normal or even a slightly lighter schedule. So, and be active in professional organizations that are available on campus. So you make contacts, because in the US, it's expected that during your time as a student, you will get to know people in the profession you wish to join after you graduate. You find internship opportunities, faire un stage, so that you can get professional experience while you're at the university. Sometimes you can do that for credit. You need to make friends among people who will be in the same profession you want to join, so that you have a network, a professional network when you leave college. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to have a hard time getting a job when you leave college. So that's an important aspect of being at the university as well. The professor generally will be willing to provide suggestions if you are having trouble doing the homework, passing the tests, understanding what is being talked about. And there you have an academic advisor also, who is somebody on the university staff, not a professor, whose job is to make sure that you know about resources that can help you succeed. And universities have some kind of support center where if you need extra help, you can find a tutor, which means a teacher who will work with you one-on-one, or build a weekly study group, or find extra materials to help you. So there are a lot of resources, and it's important for students to know, I can find help. Well, who do I need to ask to get the help I need, and then do it. And then in the US, if you write a paper and you have not used published sources, appropriately if you haven't acknowledged whatever in your paper came from a published source. You will be punished severely. And it's important to know that you have to learn how to write papers that give credit to sources that you've used in your paper. You can use sources, but then you need to put your own opinions about what they said. And that is part of the skill of academic writing. And you can always find help before you hand something in. So that's the mantra of being a student at a US university. Ask for help. There's all kinds of help available. And the university experience is very hands-on. It's not remote at all.